Hey there guys, Mr. Lunai here, just stopping by to share another video lesson with you. And I also wanted to take care of explaining a few things about our AP Psychology exam today. So remember, today is Thursday. Today we work as a class. So today we will work on a very short FRQ together as a class. We will finish it by the end of this video. So make sure that you're working along with us and that you're taking notes of how to answer the question and how to tackle it down. So I was also thinking if you have any pending assignments, like if you missed FRQ 1, 2, 3, 4, and perhaps 5. If for any reason you didn't do that work, I will allow you to submit this one practice that we're working on as a class, and I will help you out with one of those grades. So just stay with it. By the end of the assignment today, you should be able to complete it just simply by watching the video. And once you are done and you need that extra support or extra credit, just please go ahead and send it over to me so I can help you out. Now, without further ado, when we take the AP Psychology exam on May 19th, I need you guys to understand that we're being tested on 7 chapters. So we're being tested on chapter number 1, the scientific foundations of psychology, which includes all of these components, the introduction to psychology, research methods, the experimental method, selecting a research method, statistical analysis, and ethical guidelines. Now, we're also going to be tested on unit number 2, which consists of all these components here: the interaction of heredity and the environment, the endocrine system, the nervous system and neural firing, the influence of drugs and neural firing, the brain, tools for examining the brain function, and as well as the adaptable brain in sleep and dreaming. Now, we also have unit number 3, which we will be tested on. Unit number 3, we have principles of sensation, principles of perception, visual anatomy, visual perception, auditory sensation and perception, chemical senses, and body senses. For unit number 4, learning, we have introduction to learning, classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and social factors of cognitive and learning. Now, we also have unit number 5. This is cognitive psychology. This is the one that we've been currently working on. The previous 4 chapters, we've actually already covered them. We've been practicing since we started this online experience. So for unit number 5, we have introduction to memory, encoding, storing, retrieving, forgetting and memory distortion, biological basis of memory, introduction to thinking and problem solving, biases and error in thinking, introduction to intelligence, psychometric principles and intelligence testing, as well as components of language and language acquisition. Awesome. And then we have the other 2 chapters. These 2 chapters we will be focusing on in the next couple of weeks. So we have unit number 6, developmental psychology, which includes all of these components, and then unit number 7, motivation, emotion, and personality, which includes all of these components right here. So, with that being said, we're not testing on Unit 8 and we're not testing on Unit 9, so we can scratch those off. It's only Unit 7 or Unit 1 through 7. Now, let me also go ahead and show you this over here. So the course content, right? It provides a clear and detailed description of the course and requirements for the necessary student success. So we literally just covered the units that you will be testing on. So it is 7 units. Just be very aware of that. And on test day, they're just simply testing you on concept understanding. So defining, explaining, and applying the concepts and behavior theories and perspectives. 2, data analysis. So analyze and interpret quantitative data, as well as 3, scientific investigation, analyze psychological research studies. So these 3 components will be tested mainly because of what has been going on with coronavirus in our society. We will be mainly being tested on number 1. If you notice, it's being tested 75 to 80%. So if you're doing this perfectly fine, you will pass your AP exam. And analyzing and interpreting quantitative data is just looking at information and interpreting it. So you should be very well off on that part. And now analyzing psychological research, that is a component of just making sure that if they did give you a research to read, then you would be able to explain that research. But aside from that, that's really all they're testing for, guys. And remember, our exam is coming up on May 19th, so be ready for that. Awesome. So now let's go ahead and just jump onto our practice for today. So today we'll work on this one FRQ prompt. And as I mentioned, if you need extra credit, just go ahead and finish it up with us and submit it. Get it submitted, and I will help you out with one of your grades. Now, the FRQ here says, One important difference between psychological perspectives on personality involves how each perspective tries to measure personality. Okay, so the different ways or perspectives that people see personality try to measure personality. Briefly explain how each of the following perspectives views personality measurement using appropriate psychological terminology. Awesome. So we just want to understand how these perspectives of psychology measure personality. So awesome. So we need to use psychodynamic perspective, humanistic perspective, and trait theories or theorists. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. So, if you didn't have an idea as to like what the psychodynamic perspective regards, well, the psychodynamic perspective views the goal of personality measurement as revealing the unconscious conflicts and impulses that drive and create our personality. So, with the psychodynamic perspective, they're very interested in measuring or revealing unconscious conflicts and impulses that drive and create personality. Projective tests such as the TAT, the thematic apperception test, or the Rorschach tests are used to allow individuals to project their unconscious desires and impulses onto the test so that they are revealed to the therapist and client. Awesome. So we know that the psychodynamic people perspective use projective tests, and these projective tests allow individuals to project their unconscious desires and impulses, and which reveals many personality trait or personality characteristics of the individual to the therapist or client. So when we're trying to answer this component here, we can start it off just simply by saying something like the psychodynamic perspective views personality as an internal unconscious drive that is caused. All right, so the psychodynamic perspective views personality as an internal unconscious drive that is caused by internal conflicts, or we'll say individual conflicts. The individual's personal conflicts. Awesome. So we have defined how they view personality. So the psychodynamic perspective views personality as an internal unconscious drive that is caused by an individual's personal conflicts. Awesome. In order to measure personality traits, no, in order to measure personality, psychodynamic theorists use projective tests which allow the individual to project their personality through a series of questions that are answered by looking at a picture and stating what the object is. Depending on what is observed, the individual would give the therapist insight to his personality. Awesome. So we're done with that part. The psychodynamic perspective views personality as an internal unconscious drive that is caused by the individual's personal conflicts. In order to measure personality, the psychodynamic theorists use projective tests, which allow the individual to project their personality through a series of questions that are answered by looking at a picture and testing what the object is. Or not testing, but reflecting on what the object is. Depending on what is observed, the individual will give the therapist insight to his or her personality. Done. And when I tell you guys, hey, you need to indent, this is what I mean by you need to indent. You just need to indent the first sentence of your paragraph. So there we go. We're all set with that part. Now we're going to tackle on the humanistic perspective. So if you didn't remember, the humanistic approach or perspective is all about the individual and bringing love and acceptance and belonging to that person. So the humanist theorists are skeptical about attempts to measure personality. You should know this. They view personality tests and other attempts at measuring and quantifying personality as potentially depersonalizing, reducing the complexity of a person to one of a few generalized categories. So now, when we're talking about this next perspective, all we have to do is humanistic or the humanistic perspective. The humanistic perspective focuses on the individual and their differences compared to others. Humanists believe that it is not ideal to measure personality because not everyone falls into the same exact personality. Humanists are more interested on identifying how and why an individual might be different from others and would focus on using those differences as advantages. Perfect. So all you have to know is that the humanists are all about the person. They're all about individuals and individual difference. They're all about making people understand that they belong and they're loved. So the humanistic perspective would focus on the individual and their differences compared to others. Humanists believe that it is not ideal to measure personality because not everyone falls into the same exact personality. Humanists are more interested on identifying how and why an individual might be different from others and would focus on using those differences as advantages. Perfect. So now moving on to the last section. So the last section here wants us to use trait theory. So trait theorists, you need to know that they attempt to measure personality through personality inventory, such as the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Inventory. They are most interested in knowing where a person fits on each of the big five personality factors. So when we talk about the trait theorists, you need to really identify and talk about the personality factors, the big five personality factors, which if you remember, I gave you the mnemonic canoe or ocean. So that was for openness, conscientiousness, extroverted, agreeable, and then neurotic. So all of those five components are part of the big five personality factors. So let's go ahead and just take care of this last part. So we can say something like trait theorists focus on individuals' traits and on individual traits of people and use the inventory style of measuring personality. Now, so trait theorists focus on individual traits of people and use the